This video is going to be a little bit different coming from a naturopathic doctor or really from anyone in the natural health field, and that is an honest discussion about the natural health field and marketing. Since I am going to be somewhat critical of the natural health field, I'm going to quickly run through who I am. I am a naturopathic doctor, graduated University of Bridgeport College of Naturopathic Medicine in 2009, and upon the making of this video, I've been in private practice in New York City for 8 years. But actually, I've been involved in natural health for 15 years now. I started when I was a mail carrier and really too tired to do anything else. Depression, overweight. Gary Knoll, his radio show was my real introduction to natural health. But, he was the first of many different, sort of gurus, people with radio shows or websites, like Mercola.com is another one. Books for lay people. I've read many different books about natural health, the lay books, professional books. I've gone to different trainings, Institute for Integrative Nutrition, then of course naturopathic school, many different professional seminars, a lot more. And a lot of it's actually pretty repetitive at this point. Besides that, I've done a lot. Started off with dietary changes. I've tried many different supplements, homeopathy, homeopathic intakes, functional medicine, fancy functional medicine tests, chiropractic meditation, therapy. I could also list like biological dentist, taking my fillings out, and more. So it's not just being exposed to a lot in terms of lectures and presentations and seeing people in the real world. It's also trying a lot of things on myself as well. With that in mind, if I go through criticisms of the natural health field, it's not because I wish to attack it or to be a skeptic. That's the last thing I am. But I do think that we need to have an honest appraisal of what truly goes on in the natural health field, what patients and consumers go through, and realize that everything in the natural health field is not perfect and everything is not a miracle cure. If we step back and we look at natural health, not as it's practiced in the United States today, but from traditional perspective of, say, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic, homeopathy as developed in the 1800s, traditional Western herbalism, we're going to see common ideas. One is that these systems are holistic. They look at the body as one whole unit. They're not really focused on treating superficial symptoms. Treatment is the person. There is an overall philosophy of health. And also, these systems are compatible with each other, or at the very least, they're not contradictory. I mean, even though homeopathy and traditional Chinese medicine, for example, seem very different, come from very different perspectives, uses very different terms, they're not, going against each other. One doesn't contradict the other. And that's because if something is truthful, it's true. And two truthful things are not in opposition with each other. In contrast, what we have today in the natural health field is not something based upon a holistic theory of health. We have a reaction against unhealthy living. That picture I have of the kid eating at McDonald's is all over the internet. And I think this says a lot about the challenges to the natural health field. When we have people eating like that, in a sense, they don't need a holistic theory of health. They need someone to say, don't do that. It's absolutely atrocious. And you don't really need a holistic theory of health to use some common sense and say, eat some real food, eat some vegetables. But this is the world that many people live in, and this is what they're going through when they find the natural health field. But just be aware that when someone says, don't eat in McDonald's, they're not coming from the position of a theory of health. They are simply reacting against unhealthy living. And the same thing can be said about the way people have a tremendous amount of stress going on and methods to de-stress. Again, these can be compatible with holistic theories of health, but it's for the most part a reaction against very unhealthy living. Just putting up these pictures because for many decades in the United States, just eating sugar, smoking cigarettes, all this was just considered normal, and people did it without any thought whatsoever to its effect on their health. So what developed was a natural health field that was not a comprehensive system of health, but really worked by promoting basics, natural, real food, exercise, lowering stress, also getting people to use less conventional medication. And all this definitely has its place when you're living in a world like we were in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even till today, where fast food was just looked at as normal and healthy. People were eating margarine because that was supposed to be healthy. People drinking, factory farmed milk essentially because that was supposed to be healthy. We just ended up in this chemicalized, artificial food, junk living world where we're also told that all this is healthy. Growing up in the 1980s, I almost never heard anyone talk about natural health. There are only a few people out there promoting it, and in that world, we definitely needed a strong reaction against this junk food type living that was going on. Now I want to move over to problems in the natural health field. The big two that I see is that telling people to avoid junk food is, again, not a system of health. It's an anti-system, and it's going to have limitations when it comes to truly healing people. Also, to a very large degree, the natural health field has been taken over by big business. So now we have Amazon and Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon, as like the main distributor, I think, of supposedly healthy food in this country. We have a natural health field that can be confusing to customers because everyone is the expert. That's the way it is. If you are in the natural health field, if you're a practitioner, if you're selling a product, if you have a book, if you have a supplement, whatever it is, you have to put yourself out there as the expert. We have many websites, really too many websites, books, radio personalities, etc., all promoting themselves as the expert. And many of these people are experts. Are they the expert that everyone else needs to listen to? Probably not. We have a lot of rebranding of common sense as something new. That's what happens when you're in this natural health field for 15 years and you listen to one lecture after another. It's a lot of people repeating the same old stuff, a lot of this regurgitation coming out of one person after another, each one of them putting themselves forward as the expert who somehow are originating this when they're not. We have very broad generalizations that there is the one diet or supplement that everyone should take. And finally, we have what's called green allopathy. That means that we're using supplements or some type of natural health treatment not to help the whole person be healthy from a holistic perspective, but rather we're treating diseases or symptoms with supplements or some other treatment like you would use a drug. Like you use a drug to counteract a symptom. Instead, we have, well, use a supplement to counteract that symptom. So let's look at all these different diets. We have the GAPS diet, gluten-free diet, allergy elimination diets, blood type diet, raw food diet. All of these have their experts and their gurus who can almost guarantee you that if you follow these diets, all these amazing things are going to happen. Your life will be totally different. Well, all these have some commonalities. None of them include junk food. These all do work for some people. Like for some people, all of these have been amazing, have changed their lives. All of these diets do not work for some people. All of them are much better than eating pizza, McDonald's, and the Dunkin' Donuts diet. And also, not all problems are caused by diet alone. Now, and we have people out there who will go serially from one of these diets to the other. I get that sometimes. Someone comes into the office and they're like, well, I went gluten-free for this much time. I noticed this effect. This didn't get better, so then I went to the GAPS diet. All of them are kind of similar. Then there's the Candida diet. Again, these diets are not miracle cures. And it can be very frustrating to people in natural health who have illnesses and they're trying to get better from them. And instead of being told honestly that this special diet, this restrictive diet helps some people, it's kind of promoted as the miracle cure for everyone. And one thing especially that I've been seeing a lot of is people who have been told that if they go gluten-free, their autoimmune disease will go away. Is it possible that for some people who go gluten-free, their autoimmune disease will go away? Yes, it is. However, for most people who have things like Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, have those autoimmune diseases, going gluten-free will probably help you, but it's probably not going to eliminate your autoimmune disease. So what was once a system of health promotion, don't eat junk food, don't go to McDonald's, don't eat Dunkin' Donuts, don't eat all that garbage gluten, all this really good health advice, when it's hyped up as simple things is going to fix everything. It can lead into a system that's really about victim blaming. You can get very sick people with autoimmune diseases, chronic infections, chronic fatigue syndrome, that type of stuff, who feel that they have tried everything because they listen from one guru to the next guru. Each one of these health gurus or experts online has the one thing that they promote. Again, this is not a system of health. It turns into a system with various health gurus and things that they promote. Usually, again, it's promoting things within that anti-system, within that system of combating horrible Western lifestyle, but again, it's not actual health treatment within a holistic framework. That little chart I have at the bottom, what I'm basically showing is we can have symptoms on the left side going from none to mild to severe. And the more assaults to your health you have, the more likely you are to get to the point where the symptoms appear. Now, from a treatment perspective, you want to do things to improve your health to get below that threshold. Thankfully, there's not just one thing you need to do. If there was only one way to treat people, then nothing else would work. It's possible that someone could have a symptom, a disease, go for homeopathy and it helps them, or they can get acupuncture and it can help them. They get two very different treatments, but both of them are helpful because they each work in their own different way to bring someone under that threshold where they experience symptoms. So for people with illnesses, we really want to work on getting them healthy enough so they don't experience those symptoms. We're not necessarily looking for the one secret to health, the one thing to promote as a guru that's going to fix everyone. Now, honestly, as soon as there's an expert who's talking about the one thing that everyone needs to do, just consider the fact that any traditional healing system, from Chinese medicine to homeopathy, none of them have the one thing everyone needs to do, except for the basics of not eating absolutely horrible diets and stressing yourself out. This is a big problem for conventional medicine. It's a big problem for our natural health field, and that is difficulty adapting to an increasingly toxic and nutrient-deplete world. We live in a world that is much more toxic than it used to be, from heavy metals, persistent organic pollutants of various sorts, plastics that we're exposed to that are in our drinking water, medications that are in our drinking water, polluted air, and also soil depletion and food that just isn't nutrient dense like it used to be. And what this means is that there might have been things that worked really well 100 years ago, 200 years ago, that maybe don't work so well anymore because people don't have the exact same problems. Now, if something was true 200 years ago, it's still true today. And there can be wisdom that we can have from these healing traditions, but we have to apply it to the modern world that we're living in. And what this can also mean is that, I'm just sorry about this, but just eating a good whole food diet probably isn't good enough for people who are not feeling good and have many different symptoms. Because that good whole food diet that you're eating probably still has a decent amount of artificial junk food in it, even if you don't recognize it. And you're not dealing with the additional load of toxins that are coming in because this is 2018 at the making of this video. I want to point out some things about herbalism. Being a good herbalist means knowing a lot of different herbs and having a system of health pertinent to herbalism. The herbs can have different organ affinities, they can have different constitutional effects. Each herb is different. Being an herbalist is not about having a dozen or so different herbs that you take for various symptoms as if they're drugs. But the way herbalism is promoted in natural health is very simple. We all know, take echinacea if you're sick, even though it's not really traditionally good for, being acutely ill. Oregano, everyone is taking oregano for like candida or whatever. Even people with extremely hot constitutions where it doesn't match them at all. Milk thistle, and then we have this whole turmeric thing going on right now. Here's a list of the top selling herbs from 2016. Turmeric is at the top with $47 million worth of turmeric sold, more than twice anything else. Look, turmeric is a great herb, and just for the average person, they're going to be healthier overall taking turmeric than not taking turmeric. So I don't think this is a bad thing. However, just telling everyone to take turmeric because it's a great anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, that's not practicing herbalism. That's not a system of health. That's just promoting turmeric for everyone. Is this exactly what they need? Maybe someone might do better off taking, ground ivy, or maybe they'd be better off with Thistle. I mean, or I can list 100 other herbs. Maybe constitutionally speaking, ladies' man will be really good for them. That's what they need. Just telling people to take turmeric, that's not a system of health. That's selling turmeric. The way that some of these herbs are used, again, very simple, but it's not bad. It's just that this is not herbalism. Again, taking aloe because you have some digestive upset, taking elderberry because you might have a viral infection, taking milk thistle because you want something for detox, and maca because, or ashwagandha because your hormones are a little bit off, echinacea for the cold, saw palmetto for men. Again, this is allopathy. This is using herbs as drugs. This is saying, I have this specific symptom, so instead of asking why I have this symptom to begin with, I'm just going to take an agent for that symptom. That's how the herbs are being used. So we have good and bad aspects of over-the-counter herbalism, or I can just say herbalism as it's typed up over the internet, and that is we do have good general support. Most people who take turmeric or dandelion or milk thistle are probably going to be better off than those who don't take it. We do live in a toxic world. People are under oxidative stress, and these things do help. However, this system is going to be limited by the number of herbs used and the simple prescription criteria. You can also end up with people who are just confused over what they're doing. Like, for example, sometimes people have commented and they're telling me, well, I can't be toxic because I take milk thistle. As if milk thistle is now suddenly the miracle cure for all sorts of toxicity, and they think if they take milk thistle, they can't have heavy metals or plastics or pesticides or anything else affecting their health, which is just ridiculous. Milk thistle is a great herb for the liver. It's a great herb to help detoxification. It's been used for thousands of years. That doesn't mean it's the miracle cure that everyone should take for their liver. Everyone doesn't need milk thistle for their liver. For many other people, there might be other herbs or treatments that work better. And if you want to learn about the proper use of herbs from a truly herbalist perspective, there are sources like Plant Healer Magazine. I'm also a huge fan of Matthew Wood and his books. They are amazing, and they have helped me in practice tremendously, and more than anything else taught me how to be an herbalist. But then at this point, we're leaving the realm of internet hype, and we're getting into the details of this is what each herb does, this is who it will help, this is also maybe who it doesn't help. Then we have, frankly, ridiculous things like this. This is an example of Life Extension Magazine. And look, I'm not against Life Extension as a company. They have fine products. They offer blood tests on their website, so it allows people to get certain lab tests done that they couldn't get done otherwise. And I do think they have good products. However, they also will engage in some of the most ridiculous marketing you could think of. Just look at this cover that says omega-3 fatty acids increase brain volume. Fine. Is taking omega-3 fatty acids that they're talking about in that article going to increase your brain volume? Does this mean that you specifically need to follow this advice? Maybe your diet has sufficient amount of omega-3 fatty acids. Maybe you need something else. If people take too much omega-3 fatty acids, they're just going to throw their ratios off and they end up with high omega-3 fatty acids. That can happen with a lot of people in natural health. So let's just be aware of this hype. If someone wants to sell a supplement, it's pretty easy. First, you list all the benefits it gives to someone who needs it. Now that's the key word, who needs it, because not everyone needs it. Then you cite some research, and then make it sound like everyone who takes it will notice those results. If you don't need a nutrient, taking more of it isn't going to do anything for you. Selenium, for example, could help people with thyroid disease. But people with thyroid disease who have sufficient amounts of selenium are probably not going to benefit by taking more selenium. The same could be said of zinc or CoQ10 or carnitine or carnosine, or you can fill it in. So again, these selling supplements, this is all done outside of a system of health with no evaluation and individualized treatment. Remember, traditional healing systems are based upon individual assessment. The way supposed modern medicine is practiced is by getting lots of people together and then testing 1,000 people against an agent and then saying, well, 60% noticed this benefit, so this agent is good for this specific disease. While we can get some useful information out of that, we're getting massive generalizations and we lose the ability to differentiate between different individuals. With homeopathy, I think it's great that people could go to their health food store and buy simple remedies for their acute problems. But what we see here is something else that goes on in natural health, where we have complex systems reduced to like 2-minute long intakes. In order to do a proper homeopathic intake for someone, you need to actually go to a trained homeopath and talk to them for 2 to 3 hours while they do your whole intake, and then they will prescribe a remedy specific for you. I mean, there's a lot of, besides just people running out buying things that are very simple, buying these over-the-counter homeopathics that are way too low potencies, even if they are the right remedy. You're probably not going to get the exact right remedy that you need in terms of chronic cases. It's also, homeopathy is a bit of a hit and miss thing, so it's it's pretty much impossible to self-treat yourself using homeopathy in any great detail. But we still get a lot of, use this remedy for this, that remedy for that. You can go online and find a lot of discussion of people saying, I have this symptom or that symptom. What do I take? To use homeopathy in acute cases this way, look, that's okay, and people do find remedies that work well, and I think that's great. However, this shouldn't be confused for an actual homeopathic intake. Then we have the whole world of functional labs, and I can say a lot about this. Functional labs, broadly speaking, are specialized tests that you might get from, say, a naturopathic doctor, a holistic or integrative MD, maybe some chiropractors, or some other practitioners in this field. You're going to need a license to give someone one of these tests. So either, if you're doing a functional lab test, you're either seeing a practitioner, or at the very least, you're going to a website and ordering it through someone who does have a license to give these things out. Just like certain herbs can be promoted as miracles or different supplements, you can have certain lab tests promoted as the thing that everyone needs. Whether this is stool testing for digestive problems, different hormone tests, tests for toxicity, particularly hair analysis. Like you also see urine challenge tests, but sometimes you see hair analysis promoted as the thing that's going to help everyone. Everyone needs hair analysis test done. Everyone can balance their minerals by just doing this hair analysis, as if that's going to show you everything that's going on in someone's body. Food allergy tests, look, functional labs are useful. I do use them, and I think a good natural healthcare practitioner should either use them or be familiar with them. They're not miracle cures. If someone is practicing competently, in my opinion, then they should be able to do an intake, go through the history, look at the conventional labs, not the functional labs, the conventional labs, do an evaluation in office, get an assessment based upon that of what's going on, and use functional labs to either fill in certain specific gaps or use it to confirm their clinical suspicion. A competent practitioner, in my opinion, does not just fling all these fancy lab tests at people, unable to do an intake otherwise. If someone does that, then what you end up having is the person coming into my office who just spent $1,500 to $2,000 on functional lab tests, and the functional lab tests really don't say anything. And then they complain to me, they spent all this money, why aren't they better? Well, they didn't spend the money with me. And it could be kind of frustrating just as a practitioner. Also, in some of these cases where people spend all this money on the functional labs, maybe you can just go through the history and there's some very simple things going on that could have been done otherwise. And that's another reason why it's so frustrating. At the end, we have to go back to holism versus reductionism. Reductionism just looks at the body as an unintelligent machine, and problems can be reduced down to simple parts and are treated accordingly. And there definitely are certain times that that works. For example, if someone's anemic, they need iron. If someone has scurvy, they have a severe vitamin C deficiency. They don't really need a holistic intake with some herb or homeopathic given for their constitution. They need those nutrients. However, for many of the complex problems that we see, it can't be reduced down to something that simple. Holism, the body's intelligent, self-organizing system, and health symptoms can only be understood as aspects of the whole. And usually that's what it takes. We have to look at someone as a whole person. So with what's going on in the natural health field, to summarize, I think that we are much, much better off having the natural health field that we have compared to people just eating junk food and running to their doctor for drugs when something finally goes wrong. And that system of people just eating junk food and then running to their doctor is what we had through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, to the 90s, and so forth. But unfortunately, that system of junk and running to the medical doctor for drugs wasn't replaced by people necessarily getting fully competent natural health care. It was replaced by a system where people go online or read books and they find that this is the answer for everything, and then they'll try the special supplement or the special diet, and it can turn into people going on like wild goose chases. Uh, so I do want people to be into natural health. You should be able to use the information you get online. Like, I don't want to attack health gurus. Like, for example, like Dr. McCullough has the most popular health website out there, and he gives a lot of great general information. However, sometimes when you have a specific symptom, when there's a specific problem going on, that general information is not going to specifically work very well for you. Just want to keep that in mind. In terms of health experts, everyone out there is promoting themselves as a health expert. To be honest, I've had people come to my office after already going to some health expert, and you look at what this health expert who's been on TV, on Dr. Oz or whatever, who's been on radio, has done, and you just look at it like, whatever. Nothing very special. Nothing very special about the results. But, we live in a world where someone has a fancy website, or if they have certain promotions going on, or they write a book, all of a sudden that's supposed to make them the expert. My concern about this is the situation where people feel like they've tried everything, become very frustrated, possibly spent a lot of money going through this advice in a very serial fashion, such as this expert has the answer, they do it, it doesn't necessarily work. Some other expert has the answer, that really doesn't work. Generally speaking, when people change their diet from their junk food diet to a whole food diet, they're going to feel a lot better. Generally speaking, when people remove the major allergens, the dairy, the wheat, the corn, the soy, they feel a lot better. Beyond that, it's hard to come up with these broad generalizations that everyone should do. Does everyone, again, need fish oil or need milk thistle? Probably not. The average American is probably better taking them. So what I would like to see is a natural health field that is more about promoting individual health and helping people find what they truly need, rather than promoting miracle cures or the few supplements everyone needs to take. Okay, that's it. This is a bit of a rant. I hope it helps people. Remember, if you're out there and you're frustrated that you've tried this and you tried that and there are all these different experts out there, you're justified in feeling frustrated, because that's the way the world of natural health is. Doesn't mean that natural health doesn't work. It means that we have problems with how natural health is promoted currently in the United States. And, I've seen this with, clients being in private practice. I've also seen this myself as a consumer also, because, I've listened to all the lectures, I've listened to all the gurus, and at the end I found things that worked for me that were really simple, and I've also tried many different things that didn't do anything for myself, and that's because people weren't looking at me as a whole person, and instead I was just going from one person to another. who was working in a very general way or giving very general advice. But there are some people out there who did help me when I got the specific help needed. So the final encouragement would be to look for people who can look at you as an individual. If you're stuck, don't necessarily look for, the expert and the, narrow-minded cure. Okay, that's it. Bye.